Hello everyone, welcome to this, the very first episode of SACYR Talks. And this is a new podcast built by and for the construction industry. So I'm your co-host, Jonathan Payne.
Gerard Graham. Good to be here, Jonathan. First time, great, sun shining.
Well. And so today we're going to kick things off with a very simple mission. We want to create an honest and engaging space where we talk about the ideas, projects, the people, and the realities that shape the built environment. So, why a podcast and why now?
Why a podcast? I think there's a vacuum. There would be my take on it. There's a lot going on in the industry, but there's a lot of personalities behind it. I'm sure you'd agree.
Oh, absolutely. I think an important thing is, this is now celebrating 45 years of SACYR magazine. And over those decades, I'm in the industry now into my fourth decade. You're probably not far behind me, Gerard.
Heading towards my second, actually. Comfortably into my second decade, we'll say.
And we've seen it all. We've seen the booms, the busts, the big ones, the tough lessons. But the one thing I think has always remained very clear, this is quite a unique industry. There's a lot of great people, and we all want to connect, we want to collaborate, we want to share our knowledge, and stay ahead of what's coming next. We're in a very innovative industry. We're always trying to break through the glass ceilings, and we can only do that by connecting. So I think what we're trying to achieve with this podcast is to peel off the layers, get beyond the jobs, and start talking to the people, see the personalities behind the projects, and get the real world stories from those people and their experiences over the years.
Sure. I'm looking forward to the first guest. That's mega projects he's done, and they're all in Belfast here. So he's got a great story to tell. So I'm definitely looking forward to the first one.
I think that's a great statement. I think there's so many people in this industry have so many great statements, and we don't hear about them. We see the projects, and they're, we see them day in, day out, but to hear the stories behind those projects, the reality of those projects, and I don't know about you, Gerard, but I drive around the city and look, oh, I built that, oh, I built this, and my wife always laughs at me and thinks, did you build that all by yourself, But that's the way we are in this industry. It's a great industry. It gets below your skin. I think we're all proud of what we do.
Yeah, sure. It's full of teams. I heard that phrase, construction is a team sport. It's not my phrase, but I think that's a really good summary. And those projects, we're looking at one now out from where we're sitting. That's full of people, all local people have built those. That's not folks coming over from England to build it. They're all local people. Absolutely. There's a great story here. So I think it'll be a great series.
Yeah, and I think our industry is the blood, the sweat, and the tears. So let's talk to the people out there and actually get below the buildings and actually get into the stories.
Sure.
So I want to welcome today's guest, Duane McCreadie from SACYR. So Duane, what I'm going to do is actually ask you to give us a 60-second overview of your career in construction. Tell us all about yourself.
Okay, in 60 seconds.
55 left.
I graduated in July 2005, which was 20 years ago last month. So a big milestone. And in that time, I have primarily worked across the UK and Ireland, mainly between London and Belfast, with a few jobs in Dublin and Midland and stuff, a wee bit in Scotland. So that's...
So tell us what inspired you to get into the construction industry.
Okay, well, my father was a builder. He owned a small construction company, 4 or 5 guys building extensions, new houses. And I worked with him. I laboured for him. He taught me how to plaster, fill skips and all that good stuff. He taught me some business things. One day he offered me 25p a piece of wood for denailing. And after about 40 minutes, I went in and said, I've done 40 of them. So he would have owed me quite a lot of money, and he paid me a $5 and said that was all I was getting. So
that's a skill you've taken with you throughout the industry.
Some tough commercial lessons from him as well. So that's where I got started. And when I went to university, I chose construction management.
Where do you go to uni, Duane?
Heriot-Watt University, yeah. Mm-hmm. But when I went into this industry, I probably had a false sense of what it was because of working with my dad and that sort of small time houses and extensions. Our industry is so different from that.
I think a lot of us did. Even my father, he was a plumber and he used to always work on the building sites with him. He loved being on the sites. And 12 years old, I could plumb the house for you, not a problem, you know. And he knew I was just wanted to be in the industry. And he says, son, give you a bit of advice. He says, don't be a plumber. He says, be a quantity surveyor. Which I am. That's what qualified. I said, well, why a quantity surveyor, Dad? What does he do? He says, I don't know, but he drives a nice car and he wears a suit.
Oh, a similar conversation. My dad was on the tools, and he said to me one time, he was probably 50 and he had a bad back, and he said, make sure you're not physically working when you're my age. So I literally took a leaf out of that book and probably haven't done a proper day's work since.
So I've heard that, yeah. So your job role now, what's your job title?
So I am a construction director with SACYR UK and Ireland, but I also hold the role of project director for Fire and SACYR joint venture on the Belfast Transport Hub.
Yeah, so tell us those 3 or 4 landmark jobs you've delivered in Belfast, just as an overview.
Okay, my work in Belfast first started back in 2006 when I joined Gilbert Ash and went to the Ulster Hospital. So quite involved in the maternity unit at the Ulster Hospital, and then that branched out into some refurbishment work within the existing wards. And then after that point, so we were about 2008, that's when I first started travelling. First job was down south, and that took me away from Northern Ireland pretty much for right up till 2013. So I did a good, how many years that? 7 or 8 years travelling. And then came back in 2013 to do Ravenhill Rugby Grounds. So I was the project lead for Gilbert Ash on Ravenhill Rugby Grounds, and that was then the catalyst that made me think after that job, well, if I'm going to have to work in London, I may as well work for a London contractor. So I joined Waits in London and worked there for a good few years, and then came back to Belfast to work on the Grand Central Hotel, which is exciting in this office. Yeah.
Absolutely. I see a couple of defects here looking out the window, but we'll let you away with that.
So I did, that was 2016, came back to Belfast, Grand Central Hotel. It finished in 2018. And then I joined SACYR in 2019 to go to the Ulster University. I always have to point out that we weren't the team that started the job, we were the team that finished the job.
Eventually, there's a reason.
So that finished in 2021 and 22. And during that construction, we were also tendering the Belfast Transport Hub. So the timing was perfect. A lot of the SACYR team then joined our Fire colleagues and moved into the construction of the Belfast Transport Hub in 2022. We're just starting to wrap up there with sites of our job in Dublin. So a lot of the team will probably move down to a project we've secured at Dublin. So
quite good. Some fantastic landmark jobs. As we sit here looking out the window, we can see most of them. So tell me, of them all, which are you most proud of and why?
They all have their own wee special bit for me. I returned to the maternity unit in 2018 to have our first child, and it was quite a proud moment walking into the building. It kind of looked the same as it was handed over. So that was a nice feeling going back into the building 10 years later and using it as a customer. That was nice.
Surely the hotel bound to be right up there, Duane.
It was, and it's such a landmark, iconic job in Belfast.
Maybe that's where he conceived the child.
Who knows?
You know what? Actually, there's a funny story. My daughter Willow, who's now 7, I describe her as the Grand Central baby.
There's your clue.
Oh. No. She was due at the end of June 2018, and that job was due to be handed over at the end of June 2018. So there's a couple of panic moments about would the job be handed over on time or would Willow come early, and there was a bit of panic on my side. I don't usually get stressed, but I was stressed around that particular situation.
So which one was going to get priority?
Well, the job had to be finished, didn't it?
It didn't need. Your job was done on the other side.
Luckily, we got the job handed over, and Willow came late. She didn't come until July, so I had a couple of weeks reprieve before I entered fatherhood.
Very good.
But yeah, I actually brought the kids to stay in they call it the Seahorse Hotel. I brought them to stay in it last Christmas, and they loved it. Got a room high up, similar to today, and they really enjoyed it.
See that hotel? What value was that then? Your contract that you were delivered?
Back in the day, it was about 45 million as a construction cost.
And you were project manager on
Project
that?
manager, yeah.
So you were effectively running that. That had to be the most high-profile project at the time in Belfast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it had quite a lot of complexities. So we were stripping an old building that was built in the 70s.
That was bomb damaged, am I right in
Bomb
saying?
damaged several times.
Yeah.
The precast concrete units on the side of it, we were pretty much, they were sitting on pretty much rebar starter bars coming up.
Yeah.
And the panels had been dropped over it back in the 70s and then bolted into the concrete frame.
And what weight were those?
About a ton each. So what we were doing, we were coring holes in them, chaining to the tower crane and lifting them off, and Cormac Demolition was doing it. But on some of the panels, we were finding secret fixings. So where the bombs had happened during the troubles, they had been patched over. We didn't know they were there, and until we were starting to pull the panel off, we weren't able to locate it.
I actually done quite a bit of work in my career with yurts, and we done a lot of the repairs in the building as well.
Okay.
A lot of the external panels, concrete cancer on it. And
Yeah.
at one stage, there was netting over it to actually stop it falling off the building.
I think the most iconic picture of that building has the green netting right up the stairs.
That's right, yeah.
So we modified lift shafts, we modified retaining structures. It was very complicated.
You introduced me to the term bounce on that. You did a site tour. I was on it in 2017.
Yeah.
So you had to strip the whole side of those panels so that the building actually didn't bounce. Tell us what that is.
What the structural engineer, Helen Hutchinson, sort of stipulated that as we stripped the building, we had to reinstate it on the way back
Off
up.
you go, yeah.
So if we had just taken all that weight, all that dead load off the concrete frame, there was a chance that the frame could have sort of bounced. So we could only strip, I think it was 4 or 5 floors. So as we were stripping the floors, we were then coming underneath with the new steel frames, the new cladding, to take the weight back onto the frame.
Reloading the structure.
And then the top floor, ironically, was blockwork. So it had originally been the caretaker's apartment. So it had block work. And the block was actually 22 stories in the air in Belfast. You could actually see it all. And that was a scary moment. So we had to design a system of taking that block down safely. And we introduced, I think it was 6 levels of security before we started to take the block down. Did it night shift. We created a skip that was hung off the crane that offered edge protection and a sealed boundary to the building. We had fans coming out. We had exclusion zones below. We had the workers protected behind internal handrails. So we looked at every single element, and it was scary.
Yeah.
It was a scary process.
Remember, was there a huge yellow crane on that there building? And where did you bring that? Didn't you bring that in from Wembley or in from London?
So the crane's actually a funny story. The crane was 88 metres tall to the cab, and obviously it was a luffer crane, so it was higher than that again. And we sent the crane application to Belfast City Airport to get
approval.
So I sent it in, as you do, and I think it sat in somebody's inbox. So I chased it because we were due. I think you have to notify them, 4 weeks before or something. So I had notified them with good time, and I picked the phone up and I said, "Here, I'm just checking. Have you approved this crane?" And he said, "Oh, it's in my inbox here. I'll get a wee look at it." And then he must have opened it on the call, and he just hear the F-bomb coming in because it actually had to change one of the flight paths coming into the city airport. They had a flight path that comes down under certain wind conditions that had to be
abandoned. That crane sits above the height of that building. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember.
So there was another complication. There was Vodafone signals at the very top of the building, which would have been dangerous to a driver if he or she had been sitting in them all day long. So the cab had to sit that much higher than the actual roof to protect the driver from that radiation or signal that was beamed across the city.
I remember you telling us, we did a site tour of that back in 2017, and really the only thing that you couldn't have pre-planned was the height of that crane. It became a tourist attraction because you're sitting here in the middle of the summer, tourists off the cruise ships walking by, and Bedford Street is pretty restricted space, so it became an obstruction for people actually trying to stop and see this massive tower crane.
Yeah.
So, and then what way does that work when you're finished with that? Where does it go? Is it back to England, or where does that go to?
So we hired that crane from Falcon in England, and shipped back on the boat back over to this next job.
And you have to get that disassembled, subject to wind. So your prelims are sitting there ticking every day.
Well, we needed a 500-ton crane, and there was only 2 of them in Ireland. Only one was available, so you pay a ransom for that. And it sits there at 20 or 30 grand a day, waiting to take the crane down.
Yeah. And a tip of the hat to the contractor. You were working for Graham at that stage, weren't you?
Yep.
Yeah. Very good, yeah. Huge project.
So no, it's a lovely job to be involved in, and very one that I'm very fond of. The Ulster University also. You know, whenever I made the decision to move to SACYR, I think most people who I knew thought my head was cut. You know, why are you leaving the security of Graham's to go to kind of an unknown contractor, a project with quite a bad reputation? But I generally was doing it because I was a little embarrassed walking by the concrete frame as it got greener and greener with algae. And it was moving, but there was no follow-on trades. It had no buzz around it, it had no momentum. Yeah. And it needed some direction, and it needed a local supply chain to come in and make it happen. And that's where I went in and then created a new team that really got behind it, got really good camaraderie, brought in a lot of the local supply chain who didn't want to work there unless they recognised the guys who were going to be running the job. You know, the likes of Colin Button, I remember saying to me, I'm not going anywhere near that job. And then when I took the job, he rang and says, you know, can I get in? So and that happened quite a lot.
Every job.
Yeah, that happened quite a lot. And so that's a job I'm particularly proud of. It was ferocious. It was painstaking. We put huge amounts of effort into it. Most people would have walked away from it. You know, certainly when COVID happened, when we realised the massive issue around the budget, most people would have walked away from that. There was an easier way to make a salary than turning up there every day.
Could you just say that for every job?
I don't know. That one was particularly vicious and, you know, very hard contract. And what got it through was the camaraderie within the team, the banter in the morning over a coffee, the coffees in the afternoon, trying to spur people on. The camaraderie, the people is what got that job finished.
You find that banter is starting to disappear in the industry? Because many years ago, the industry was full of banter. And I find myself, you go onto the sites, yes, there's a little bit of fun, but it's not the way it used to be. Because we've got so professional, we've so much process, so many systems, so much paperwork and reports. Are we losing that?
I'm going to say no. I have an opposite view. I think, you know, management is not as, you know, we don't wear ties anymore, so we can relate better to the workforce. You know, there's not, I don't feel there's as big a divide as there was.
Good to hear.
And I think that, you know, if you want to have a culture on your project that delivers, you need that wee bit of banter. You need people who want to have a good time in work, deliver good quality buildings, do it safely, but you want them to be part of something bigger, and I think that's the culture.
Yeah. So there's a better team atmosphere.
Yeah, there has to be. You know, the old 1970s management of shouting.
Hierarchy style, yeah.
People have a choice now. They won't turn up, you know, and I think as the skills in the industry gets tighter and shorter, the only way we can really get jobs done is by creating atmospheres where people want to turn up, you know.
I think that's very reflective of the Grand Central Station, because the photographs
that
are on the walls of the workforce during the project, and they really tell a story, don't they?
They do.
You can see the faces and the emotions and the dedication, I suppose, of the people.
Yeah.
It's
and here,
very reflective.
Fair play to TransLink. They've had them up now for a year. You know, it wasn't a token gesture.
And they should stay there. They do tell the story, don't they?
Yeah, and I think for the workers, you know, getting that respect for the people who have physically built the station, I think is massive. Yeah. And what you get out of that by respecting the workforce is then they will respect you in return. They will deliver better quality. They will look after each other on site. So that the photographs were part of a bigger piece around behavioural safety based on respect and, you know, treating people like adults, really. And I've said a lot of the guys have came and asked me for a copy of their photo, you know, because here they're proud moments to get these, you know, what do you do all day and work, Dad? Well, this is a couple of photos. What do you do, Mum? This is photos of what we actually do. So
see, to put that in perspective, Duane, you're on the Grand Central Station there. What's your role in that? Are you're project director?
I'm project director for the joint venture, yeah.
And see SACYR, you've mentioned SACYR. Put SACYR into a bit of context. What size of a company is that? That's your employer at the moment.
So SACYR work in 22 countries across the world. We turn over about 4 billion a year. Our biggest market is PPP projects. So in a lot of Italy, Brazil, we do a lot of PPP projects. We've secured our first PPP project in the UK. And that's very much our business strategy, is that bringing value as a developer and a contractor at the same time.
Yeah. So you live in North Down, and then are you travelling out to where are they based? Madrid? Are they? Where are they in Spain?
So I work for SACYR UK Ireland. So I work for the UK business. I was in Barcelona recently, seeing my colleagues over there. They're doing the Barcelona Underground at the moment. So tunneling a 4 kilometre tunnel between two existing railway lines. They're doing a connection, which was fantastic. So yeah, we do some really interesting jobs, but unfortunately I don't get to travel to Spain on a regular basis. I sort of once a year get over to head office or go and see some of the projects that we're doing there.
You're not doing the refurb of the new camp or anything out there, no?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Yeah.
No, that's not you.
Waiting on my offer coming in.
So tell me, Duane, there's quite a diversity of roles you've done, tasks and skills. What do you think is the most unexpected skill you've had to learn on the job?
Huge amount of multitasking that you have to do in a moment. You know, you could be discussing a commercial situation on a Teams call. Come off the call and then someone comes into your office and they want to talk about a problem they have. They want to talk about, you know, a program issue, social value issue, subcontractor issue. So your brain needs to multitask on 100 different things at the same time, but treat each of them with the same amount of respect and due diligence. You know, you can't really be sharp these days. You know, you have to say, well, you know, and then process what the question is they're asking. So I say to my wife, I used to be a good builder, now I'm more of a politician. Multitasking a lot of the different moving parts of
And with all these changes in the industry, what do you think is the biggest challenge the industry is now facing?
I think it has to be our shortage of people. Our shortage of people is enormous, and we're now competing against all these other industries that are also short of people, and we need to try and get the industry to be more attractive. We need to get the industry to, I think, change a lot of its historic ways to be more attractive to young talent, to more diverse talent to come into the industry. People is what makes the industry flow. Yeah. We have a shortage of people. We have problems.
And how do you find technology changing the industry? Because I know a lot of our youth of today want to be in the whole tech sector, and I always believe that our industry is moving very rapidly towards that. So tell us how you adopt technology within the industry and how you think that's going to change the industry and hopefully help to attract the youth coming in the future.
So my experience of technology, when I started 20 years ago, joined as a site supervisor for Gilbert Ash. Yeah. You didn't get a laptop in those days. You got a mobile phone. That was your form of communication. So life was a bit more simple back then. Yeah. But you were a little bit more simple. So I think technology is great. It has real benefits in the industry, but I also think we need to treat it with some caution.
So do you operate paperless?
No, I still have a notepad. My brain, you know, if I'm in a meeting, I take some notes down for my own sanity. It's just how I process that information. I don't know if I think I'm scribbling it into my brain, but by writing down notes.
Same notepad never leaves my side.
Yeah, and I have tried to digitalize that. I do have an iPad and tried to use OneNote and stuff like that, and I do that. But you know, if you look at my bag, there's two green notebooks that I use for personal and professional.
There's something great about flicking through the pages, trying to find something you've written down somewhere in the past.
But where technology is now is it's streamlining the process. I think what we need to use, you know, the bricks and mortar on a construction site isn't going to change anytime soon. So what we're trying to do with technology is get the information that we need to the people and keep our management out on site for as much as possible. You know, it probably got to a point there maybe 5 or 10 years ago where we were so heavy in admin and we were so based on laptops that if you tallied up the hours and the activities we were asking people to do, they were probably spending 20% of their time on site. So modern technology and tools like Dialogs, for example, are allowing to streamline that process. So we're not, you know, like we use Dialogs for progress meetings with subcontractors. We use it for all our safety issues. We use it for quality. We use it for daily records. And it means that you can easily hyperlink. So if you have a progress meeting with a subcontractor, you can hyperlink in the quality issues you might be talking about. So you're not having to, you know, take photos and copy them into a document. It all happens automatically, and that streamlines the process.
Is that done company-wide, Duane, or is that just on the current project?
Pretty much company-wide across the UK. We do have different JV partners, and different JV partners have different preferences, so we're not totally fixed, but digital tools are definitely streamlining the process, getting us accurate information. You know, like before we used Dalux for our daily site diaries. The site guys, so I'm taking one guy in particular, a guy called Tony, really, really good guy in his 50s. He was taking the photos, maybe 40 photos a day. He was WhatsApping them to one of the engineers who was then uploading them occasionally onto a OneDrive file. So if those two guys got knocked down in a bus, we would have lost a huge amount of records that we need. Where with Dalux, he can go out, take the photos on the actual app, and as soon as he comes back into the office, they're automatically uploaded onto that location, date stamped and location stamped on the map. Now, if I'm going back in 3 years later because there's an issue, those records are invaluable. And Tony was a bit hesitant actually when we described what we were doing. Oh, see, after 12 hours, I thought it was the best thing that he had.
Sure, yeah.
If we went back in time, you've had quite a lot of experience, so let's wind the clock back 20 years.
Okay.
What bit of advice would you give yourself that would be invaluable now?
I have, in the benefit of hindsight, when you look back on the last 20 years, I would say that your 20s are your apprenticeship. So don't be driven by your salary, be driven by who you're working with, the opportunities you have, the types of projects you're on. The money will come, your salary, your fulfillment will come, but treat your 20s as your apprenticeship.
When you say the people you work with, I presume you're talking about the actual people, not the company.
Oh, the people
around you.
Yeah.
Because that's what this industry is. This industry is
100%.
all about the people.
So it's the subcontractors you're working with, the support you get, the quality of the operatives that you're working with, the mentorship, the guidance that you're getting from your senior management, from the guys on site. You know, that is what will make your career. Those years are irreplaceable.
Yeah.
So
to a certain
20s
extent,
are your apprenticeship. Your 30s, you start to get a bit more money, but you spend it on building your family home and getting married and stuff like that. So I think that there's a natural process that you will go through your career in your 20s and 30s.
Which companies did you move from then? Where did you start then in your mid-20s there?
So when I graduated, I actually went to BAM on the graduate training program in Scotland.
Right. Okay.
I was only there a year because my dad took a stroke and I needed to move back to Northern Ireland. We needed to renovate the house. My dad's business had closed down. Quite a lot of change at home. So I joined Gilbert Ash. Worked with some fantastic people in Gilbert Ash.
That was the rugby stadium at that stage, was it?
That was the rugby stadium was the last job. So I went into the joined them in 2006. So the rugby stadium was kind of 2013. I went to Ulster Hospital for a couple of years, and then I got a choice. Raymond Gilroy gave me a choice: either go and do a floor of the big hospital they were building there, or go and do a job on my own. So I opted for a job on my own, and I went to Dublin. We refurbished Tallaght Square Shopping Centre, which was an experienced night shift project. Left there and then went to England and built hotels and factories and all sorts of stuff. Really fancy apartments on Oxford Street in London. Some really, really cool jobs. I think that's probably the one thing I've been really lucky with is the variety of projects that I've done. Pretty much never have done the same project twice, which has been a real benefit to my experience and development.
So take this, we're sitting here on a Tuesday. What's your typical week look like? So what did you do yesterday, for example? You get up, hop on the train, you're in Belfast for what time there on a typical working day for a project director?
Yesterday was slightly different. My wee man, Xander, has a condition, cystic fibrosis, and every 3 months he goes to the hospital. Now he's only 4 and he now hates getting bloods taken. So the only person that can bring him is myself, because I'm the one that can kind of coach him in, get the cream on so it numbs the pain, and then if I have to, get him a bit of a bear lock. So I had to do that yesterday morning for a few hours, and then when that finished, I had a whole afternoon of quite intensive meetings within the JV. We're kind of starting to look at interim final accounts and stuff like that, so there's a lot of sort of technical meetings all afternoon, and then finished at 5 o'clock and jumped on the train and went home.
Yeah, and that's you home, back, having dinner, 6 p.m. in the evening?
Yeah, 6 o'clock.
And you're doing that most days, you're managing to do that and getting a good work-life balance?
Yeah.
That's great. Where would be your next project then, out of interest, Duane? Will you hopefully be able to stay local?
My role's taking a bit of a transformation at the moment. So I'm going through a bit of a stage of change. It's probably the best way to describe it. So my role will probably change moving forward. But yeah, still in construction and still doing what I like. But I think it's important that we're always challenged and I'm probably getting a wee bit in my comfort zone running these sort of bigger jobs, and I think I need a new challenge.
What does motivate you? What drives you?
I believe that what drives me is seeing buildings left behind and bringing your kids in to see them and leaving a bit of a legacy. I think the construction industry is a fantastic place where you can work and leave a legacy behind you. You know, your input on different jobs, it's there for everyone to see, and I think that's what's really strong about construction. So I really love bringing my kids into jobs that have been finished. So when the university finished in 22, I snuck my daughter in the day before handover, and we got some photos in the place, which I'll roll out at some point. And then the Grand Central, they got the train up, the first train that arrived in the Grand Central. They weren't on the first train, but they came up slightly after that and met me. So I think that's really good at inspiring the next generation.
Brilliant, yeah.
Very much. So all these great projects you've done, I said one project, you can pick a dream project that you can project manage. What would it be?
In the future?
Yeah.
Here, I think I love a challenge, and I think the higher a building is, the bigger a challenge it is. So here, I would love to do like a 70-meter tower, a 70-story tower, or something really tall. Yeah, I think I would. I don't think I'll never get the opportunity in Belfast, but
you never know.
I think if somebody built a 70-floor building in Belfast, we would stick out of it, wouldn't it?
What about a stadium? Would you build a stadium?
I'd love to build another stadium. Yep.
Yeah, who knows? Might happen.
Never.
Any holidays this summer?
I was in France. I drove to France at Easter, and then my wife after was like, you know what, our kids are quite good fun now. Should we go away again? So we're going to Spain next week for 6 nights. And come back on the Sunday, and they start back in school on the Tuesday. And then
Very good. Where were you in France?
We drove down through England. We went to Chesney World of Adventure, went to Legoland, got the shuttle over to France.
Oh, yeah, never done it.
Stayed in a Eurocamp and did a couple of days at Disney, walked the Eiffel Tower a day. So yeah, the kids had pretty much a chicken nugget tour of France. You know, everywhere we went.
Big French fans.
Yeah.
Most years camping. Yeah, it's a great holiday.
I was in Normandy, went to St Malo, took your advice.
Fantastic, isn't it? Some
Nice place,
absolutely beautiful.
Yep.
Absolutely beautiful.
Took the boat out of there to go to Jersey and did the day trip.
Yeah,
You were telling me about.
you there as well in the past.
Yeah, the old town, thoroughly recommend.
There's something quite nice about packing everything to the boot of your car and just setting off, rather than worrying about your cabin baggage, what you've brought, what you haven't
And even
brought.
more fun is the way backpacked full of nice wine.
Yeah. I managed to get 18 bottles in.
Yeah.
I think I got 200 last year. I didn't have any kids. Left them at home.
Yeah, that's what you've got the van for, is it? Just for doing wine runs. Yeah.
You caught me out.
Very good.
Well, tell me, what do you think you've learned most about leadership in the industry?
I think leadership for me is about persuasion. It's about, everyone has a different thing that motivates them. And it's trying to learn that. And it's trying to get the best out of people through that various ways of persuasion and motivation. There was we were sitting beside the Grand Central Hotel. So the Paul O'Neill, who did the cladding on the job from Belfast, he would have been quite hard. He would have told my managers, "You tell Duane, I'm not effing doing that," and blah, 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 blah. So I said, "Well, leave it with me. I'll give Paul a call." So I would give Paul a call and, "Paul, yeah, time for a wee coffee there," and I'd get him across the street. And within about 20 seconds, he was, "I'll get that sorted out for you, Duane." Sometimes it's just about how you approach things and get the best out of people. So leadership for me is about letting people make decisions, because you need to inspire the next generation. You need those decision makers to be coming through, but also motivating them and getting the most out of them. So they fulfill their potential, but also they fulfill the role you need them to do on whatever project that is.
From my involvement with you, I think a skill that you have is that you've learned to delegate a lot. You've put your structures in place over in your current project, but a lot of it is delegation so that those teams run themselves. But with you providing input, but giving them the autonomy to go and run their own teams.
Yeah.
Is that a fair comment?
Yeah. It's funny as well, Gerard, you talk back about history. I remember building a hotel in Morecambe Bay, a luxurious travel lodge in Morecambe Bay. It was only about 3 or 4 million quid. I was the only person on the job.
Sure.
There was no other QSs,
The only person from the
main contractor. I was the only person on the job.
Right.
The contracts manager used to fly over every 2 weeks, and the QS used to fly over, and you were the only person on the job.
So everybody was subbed in for you.
Yeah.
What size of a job would that be?
About £4 million, 60-bed hotel, steel frame with like a timber frame box on the top of it. And I had a guy called Willie. His nickname is Willie Scare the Babies, so you can imagine. And Willie used to drive the forklift. He used to clean the offices. And yeah, he was one of these guys that after a few days started to think he was a manager at site, and you had to put him back on his box. And every week you had to do that with him. But it was a really good job. So yeah, I've kind of came both ends of the scale. When you're doing a job like that, you're aware of every single thing that's happening on a job. And you still need that control when you're running an operational team of 40 or 50.
Yeah.
But you need to allow them to delegate. And you do that by having a good team around you.
I remember you told me a number of years ago, don't be afraid to take on any project, but you need the key people around you. And I think you quoted, you need the right site manager and the right contracts manager and the right quantity surveyor. If you get that core right, there's nothing to stop you taking on any project. You still agree with that, Duane?
100%. And if you look back at the Ulster University, which I mentioned earlier, was a really difficult job. On that job, we had a really strong M&E person, two really strong project managers, myself, and a really strong commercial lead. And we were the same person, No one did anything without other people knowing, and we all fed back either with a bit of over coffee first thing in the morning, or say that afternoon, usually in a coffee shop somewhere, de-stressing and trying to encourage people to keep going. That core 5 people were just instrumental in the success of eventually getting that job.
It's that great word we use in the industry. It says collaboration. It's always been there.
Yeah.
It's always been there, and I think it's always been the key to successful projects. We've just managed to actually use it as a key term today.
Yeah. I think collaboration to me is a bit of a buzzword. I think it's culture. Getting the culture. Collaboration is a word. And one of the main learnings from the Belfast Transport Hub was that picture of the collaborative tree that we drew up. And I think it kind of summarises my last 20 years of learning. If you get those behaviours right across your team, think of them as the roots of the tree. You get the behaviours right, embedded across the team, you get a really strong trunk of the tree, and then everything that grows off that, all the different branches, you get things that happen that you didn't even plan for. So social value, charity work, behavioural safety, ownership, development, all those things, all the events of the Leafs and stuff like that. It just grows really strong.
Yeah.
And I don't think you can set out on any project to say, this is what we're going to do. We're only going to focus on behavioural safety, because it won't work. You have to get the culture right, get the solid foundations in place, and I think the output will be kind of difficult to measure sometimes, because you get so much that you hadn't planned for. So if you do a charity event, for example, you raise a few quid for charity, but it actually boosts the team spirit. It helps with your JV relationships, it helps with your client relationship. It has so many impacts that you maybe didn't plan for at the start.
Culture is very difficult to build, because you can't really build the culture. You have to let the people build the culture. You got to give them the tools to build, develop, and hopefully strengthen that culture. All you can do is really nurture it.
You can nurture it, but we did things like insights behavioural profiling, which allows people to understand their strengths, their weaknesses, their blind spots, and also the people they're working with. What's their strengths, weaknesses, and blind spots?
Learn to work with them better.
Like we did insights profiling when I was at Waits, and my director was the complete opposite to me. And Gavin, he used to you'd ask him a question and leave it, and he'll answer it the next morning. And he always did, where I was, need an answer now. But by learning that, very quickly we got on so much better, because he's just slightly different to me.
That's effectively, you're doing personality profiles there.
Yeah.
And I'm sure every construction firm is not doing that. The project you're just on, that must be one of the few projects that's been done, personality profiles and teams.
That was the second time I'd done it, but it's only forward thinking people.
That's new technology, effectively, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it's here. It's been used in Coca-Cola for 50 years and stuff like that. So it's not new technology, but I think it's people. Construction, we're so worked in silos sometimes, and we don't always take a chance to step back and see the bigger picture.
I think you say it's the forward-thinking companies, because they're moving away from the process and understand that the people is what makes the process. I think that's an important learning, isn't it?
Yeah, a quote the other day is retainment is the new recruitment. And I think that's very true in this world that we're heading now of skills shortages. And talent shortage.
How do we make the industry more attractive? How do we make it more sexy, for want of a better word? How do we encourage more people into the future?
Well, I think it starts.
Apart from listening to this podcast, hearing
I
your
think
great
it starts
story.
in school, doesn't it? You know,
does.
I think career advice in school is awful.
It's
You know,
terrible.
like
Very much so.
if I relate back to when I asked my teachers about construction, you know, they kind of looked at you like you had four heads. So we need to get better at that. The industry needs to improve its image. You know, when I met my now wife and speaking to the parents for the first time, they were like, "Oh, you're in construction? Yeah, I just finished working on Ravenhill. All right, are you a brickie?" You know, which is fine, but people don't understand that the amount of roles exist in these big projects, the opportunities that exist in these, the salaries that exist. You know, we're not very good at selling ourselves. So we need to improve the career advice. We need to improve the image of the construction. I think we all have a onus to improve what people deem as construction. You know, and sometimes I'm driving in and see a bit of roadworks happening, and you know the guys are messing about or something like that. That's not helping the image of construction. That's what people perceive as construction.
See, for any young people listening to this, Duane, you mentioned salaries. Just to be blunt about it, what sort of salaries are being paid out at the moment? We're sitting in the middle of Belfast. If there's a project starting there next door, a site manager was starting on it, what sort of salary would you expect he or she will be commanding nowadays?
A good site manager in Belfast is making around 60 to 65,000 pounds.
Easy.
On
Plus their
a
bonuses and
larger
packages.
Yeah,
project?
plus car allowances and whatever else.
Yeah.
Yeah. Project manager, you know, north of that. You know, and here there's no standard set thing. But if I was going to Hayes now and said, "Listen, I need a decent site manager," that would be what we would be paying.
Yeah.
You know, project managers would be above that, and then obviously.
And that's a message we have to get out there, particularly to, you know, the whole diverse culture of people we have out there. You know,
Yeah.
I remember when I was in my early days in school, there was an advert in Cycling Weekly, and it had, "This is Chris, the electrician." He had his transit van, and 2 pages down, it was Chris and his a Lotus. And
Yeah.
you know, I think sometimes we forget that young people are motivated by money. They want to be successful, and sometimes as an industry, we're not great at saying, "Well, hold on a sec, come in here. If you've got the talent, if you work hard, and you get a bit of luck on your side, you really will be a success in this industry."
Absolutely. And I think there's a bit of a long haul to get qualified, be it through the apprenticeship programs or university, but the salaries are massive.
Yeah.
And it's one of the few industries you can come in as a site labourer sweeping the floors, and 20 years later you can be an MD. The pathways are there for those who are motivated and actually want to work.
But I think things like apprenticeships need to be reviewed. You know, if you're going to a young male or female now and saying to them, "Right, go and do a 3-year apprenticeship as being a carpenter, and at the end of that, you know, you've got a really good career," but you're asking that person to take a below minimum wage position when they are trying to keep up with the Joneses and social media, and you know they're going out at the weekends and they want to go on their holidays, and they're getting, you know, I don't know, £7 an hour, but they go and work stack shelves in Tesco's and you're getting 13 quid an hour. That's a big decision to ask a 16-year-old to look for their future.
That's what
You know, I remember my accountant going to me before, "Duane, you should really get that bonus paid into your pension." And here, it would be a sensible thing to do, but right now I needed the money to
need it
do
now.
an extension of the house or something, you know. So if I can't make that decision at 40, how is a 16-year-old going to make that decision for the future? So we need to get smarter. We need these people in here, and I think we need to look at that system.
Who drives that? You know, who decides, okay, we've got the CAF who are fantastic in Northern, very active, and they have actually last year set the apprentice rates to minimum wage, which was a great move. But it's still not enough, because we're still competing, you say, with the Tesco's, you're paying more. With IT companies, you're bringing people in straight away on 30,000 a year salary. So how do we change that? How do we change the salaries, the culture, the perception at that early stage?
It's a hard one to fix.
You know,
And
is it the industry? Is it the representatives of the industry? Is it the training bodies?
know,
Where
but
do
if
we
you-
start with this?
If you look at our model, so we have main contractors that employ tier one subcontractors generally, and those tier one contractors then sub up a large M&E package or a joinery package down to smaller companies that
Downstream.
maybe employ 10 guys, girls, and some of them are apprenticeships. So it's those people that need help in terms of planning for the future. And if you remember, we're not planning a factory floor here. We're planning a construction site and they don't always see the continuity of work. So, you might be really busy for a year and then they don't know where the next job's coming. So trying to keep them focused on a 10-year growth plan or something is quite hard. And that growth plan would have an element of apprenticeships built into it. So I think we need to be better at giving people continuity of work, which is a hard thing to do because we do work in this very...
Is that an education bit or is it a legislative process? That's trying to find the answers and it's difficult.
It is. It's difficult. You look at when Phase 1 of Grand Central when Grand Central Station completed last September, we had 250 M&E, 250 internal fit-out people that finished, done a great job, left the project. There was nothing else in Belfast at that stage that would have housed 250 people. There was a lot of concrete frames. Graham's doing a lot of concrete frames coming out of the ground. There's a lot of jobs, but it didn't have the room for 250 people at fit-out stage. So where have those people gone? Probably went to London, Dublin, and so we need to try and create more of a continuity of work so that people can plan for it, which is very difficult to do. It's easy to say, but very difficult to plan.
See all those trades you're talking about. Give us some more numbers, Duane, and in terms of salaries, wages. Again, nowadays, we've touched on project managers. You'd be close to all those subcontractors out there. Well, what sort of money, to be frank, is on the ground there now for
here, to be honest,
plumbers, electricians?
I think everyone, I wouldn't like to put a number on a plumber or electrician because I know some of them moving to Dublin and getting, £36 an hour and that sort of stuff. So it would be hard to say exactly what people are getting in Belfast. They're all, it depends on their employment route. Are they working directly for the main contractors? Are they working through subcontractors? Are they on price work? Are they on hourly rates? It's very hard to break down. But here, they're doing well. That's for sure.
I think that's the important message. It's not what the actual figures are, but they are significantly higher than the equivalent in other industries.
100%.
There's no doubt about that. And that's a very important message.
And here, the quality of life is actually really good.
Sure, yeah.
Well, I went into a coffee shop close to home there a couple of weeks ago, and there was an electrician. Obviously, he was doing a lot of home work. He was doing residential work, and he was standing in his shorts on the phone, really chilled out. Planning. He was ordering materials or something like that, and he's probably making a good living, and good. He's obviously very skilled at what he did, but he didn't look like he was hugely under pressure. Which would be quite a nice way of life, which is a good sign.
Yeah,
they're well organised.
I was on a site a couple of months ago, spoke to the site manager, and I asked the same question. And he says, most of those guys experience, 10 plus years experience, are earning 40 grand on the site.
Oh, easy and more.
And they're all away home noon on a Friday.
Yeah.
And he says, there's a good salary, a good life-work balance. Now, they're all on site here at 7:30, but that's fine. They're up, and they're all disappeared here at 4 o'clock. That's a good salary for anybody.
Plus scores and stuff and whatever else they're doing outside.
And that's not promoted. Young people don't know that.
The other side of it is that's the salary, but it's not to stop somebody going out and actually starting their own joinery company, their own bricklayers or whatever. Multiple people working for them. Yeah, sky's the limit.
Yeah.
But it's not the young people, it's the careers teachers, it's the parents.
Yeah.
That's where the influence comes.
Yeah.
And that's where we're
teachers,
not. Teachers, that's where we're not great at
send that message out.
Informing people. Yeah.
I have actually seen the reports whereby the parents and the children are interested in construction, but they can't get the information because the careers teachers are lacking the knowledge. Yeah. And I've spoken to careers teachers, because I'm quite passionate about myself. And whenever you say to them, you do realise there is like 400 different job titles within the built environment. And they look at you. They think it's a brickie, a jeweler, a foreman, an architect, and that's it.
Yeah.
But that's the problem we have. So we have to educate that. And even trying to get into the schools, it's very difficult. It can be difficult, yeah. Because if they're saying, well, if we let you into the schools talk about construction, we have to let everybody else on.
Yeah.
There are ways through STEM programs, etc., but we really do need educators. The message has to be good out there.
I think it's partly the way we're set up here with typically secondary schools, which are more vocational, grammar schools, which are more academic. And if going to a grammar school, they are channeling their students to the typical law, medicine, all the traditional professions, and that's why that image of construction, it's almost taboo in a grammar school, and that's what needs to change.
Earlier on, you asked me about SACYR. So in Spain, it's as prestigious to be a civil engineer as it is to be a doctor.
Correct.
And why is that? What's different over there?
The image. The image. We are the industry that makes every other industry work.
Yeah.
We provide the hospitals, we provide the hotels, we provide the infrastructure, the roads. So we're not good enough at promoting ourselves. We need to get to the place where having a job in the construction industry is actually seen as a prestigious thing. And there's a lot of caveats that are going to stop that happening in terms of image and professional and stuff like that. But we have to start somewhere, and we need a plan to do that.
It's Winston Churchill quote: "We ship the buildings, and the buildings ship us." And that's the message we have to get out there. You know, the built environment is what actually drives the entire society.
Yeah. And what other career can you pick that you can look back and go, "Oh, I worked on that job."
Yeah.
Like I'm going to be that bored dad driving around Belfast. To my
we
kids.
all are.
I worked on that job. Oh, I worked on
We
that
all
job. You know, and there's if you were an accountant or something like that, you maybe wouldn't get that same satisfaction, that same legacy left behind.
Yeah.
So I think it's an important thing that we have to sell. How we do it. If it was an easy answer, someone would have come up with it, but it certainly needs some good brains to think about
I
it.
think we're very good at talking among ourselves about the great jobs we've done. We're very poor externally,
Yeah.
telling others about it. And we, you know, we have our industry awards, and we have so many collaboration events, and we all work very well together, which we very much do. But we don't send the message out beyond that. We really don't.
Because even if we tackle up those awards events we've all been at them. It's all internal. We're not actually telling anybody outside the industry. Like the last construction industry dinner I was at, awards is 500 people, but it's all internal. We're actually backslapping each other without actually bringing the message outside.
Well, I done this at our CAB dinner last year. I had the table to promote industry.
Yeah, it was a clever move.
And we brought head teachers, we brought careers teachers.
It was a great move.
People from different communities who were involved in construction. I just, please come. Please, from the outside, come and see what we're actually doing. And the feedback we got from that, I'm just stunned at what you guys are doing and the talent that's in this room, and you know all the high-level discussions and the projects you're working on. It stunned them.
Yeah, I was at them.
Yeah, that's how we do that on a bigger scale.
Yeah. Here's a question for you, Duane. Jonathan and I were talking about this earlier before you come in. Local contractors have been very successful in London. Okay. We know all the big local contractors here. And if you look at the top contractors active in London, there's a lot of Northern Ireland-based contractors. What do you put that down to? Because there's a success story there that, again, as Jonathan touched on, isn't really been marketed. But we are a small province here. But the ratio of work being won over there is out of proportion. It's a success story. You've worked in London. Why is that? What is the success story? Is it the work ethic? Is it the marketing that's been done specific to win projects over there? What, in your opinion, is making these local contractors here win highly prestigious projects in the centre of London?
So when I went to Waits, left Gilbert Ash, joined Waits as a project manager. And I was only there a few months, and a Welsh guy came to me and he said, "Where do you come from, Duane? I didn't know guys like you still existed."
Right.
I says, what do you mean? And he says, "Well, you've come through the old school mentality of how to build."
Right.
So what they do in England is they package everything up. So the bricklayer on a tier one contractor in England will supply their own scaffold, their own blocks, their own mortar, their own wall ties, they'll have their own PM. So the skills that site management are getting are not the same as what we're getting here in Northern Ireland.
Okay.
You know, you don't really learn how to manage a site till you make a mistake. You know, until you have a lorry load of concrete too much, then you have to work up where you're going to put it. You know, whenever you run out of mortar for the brickies and you're having to face a brickie about why there's no mortar there for them. So we, as an industry, still do labour-only contractors. You know, concrete frame guys are maybe not supplying concrete and rebar. We're supplying that still. Brickies, we're supplying, you know, the mortar. And I think that brings our guys a lot better educated of how to manage sites. In England, and not all companies, but a lot of them become sort of package managers. And they're then nearly becoming policemen, managing a subcontractor, but they're dealing with all the problems. And we're not exposed, the site management is not exposed to the problems. And I think that is a real strength. On top of that, Northern Ireland people have a real can-do attitude.
Yeah, there's a work
Most of them
ethic
come
there,
from
isn't it?
farming backgrounds, they're problem solvers, and they have a really strong work
I
ethic.
think we have a real culture of being passionate and dedicated to what we do. That results in quality because we care. There's empathy, which I think you find a lot, as you say, those package guys don't have.
Yeah.
It's a process to get turnover to make margin.
Yeah.
And that's all that's actually of any concern.
Yeah.
Whereas I think the Irish contractors, there is passion, they want to deliver quality, they want to be seen to be,
The other thing in
driving these
Northern
jobs.
Ireland, quite a small community. So, your reputation means a lot to you. You can't afford to lose it.
Yeah.
Where I think in England, you've got, 30 million, 30 times more people. So you can, the country's so big, you probably will not come across somebody again.
So see when you were working in London there, running those projects, they're big projects you were doing in London. Were you using Northern Irish Irish
No.
Irish subcontractors?
No. So when I worked for Gilbert Ash in England, yes. We were.
Yes. And how did you find them? Did you see a stronger work ethic from our local subcontractors
It's
here?
funny, when you're working in England with Northern Ireland subcontractors, you have it even more because these guys are working away from home and they want to work extra hours. They're there to make money. So they're working 7 to 7, So it's nearly like a site on steroids. The site is full
Site
of
steroids, yeah, that's a good quote.
But if you mix in an English contractor in the middle of that, I remember having an English contractor in that hotel in Morecambe. Used to turn up at 8:30 because they left the house at 8 o'clock and then they left at 3:30 because they had to be back home at 4 o'clock. So it's an interesting dynamic. When I worked for Waits, it was all English contractors packaged up. And then I could see the harm that it was doing to the young talent because they weren't being exposed to the same problems that we would have been.
So see your former employer, to give an example there, Gilbert Ash, they've won a lot of high profile projects in London. What is the trick to that? They've obviously done good marketing out there. They must be bringing in local subcontractors from here over to England. Is that what they're doing?
I don't know now. Obviously, they're fantastic builders. They know what they're doing. They're very good at bespoke. They're very adaptable because they're small. They can be very adaptive. They're small
Relatively
to
small.
to the big Belfast and stuff. So they bring a lot of value from that and a lot of real good thinking. What their supply chain is now, I'm not sure, Gerard, to be honest with you. But they know how to do it and they've got a really good reputation.
Yeah, and they're competing up against the big international companies there, the Balfour Beatties, and winning. That's a great story.
And they're winning on quality and reputation.
Yeah,
It's not just price laid out.
Yeah.
Duane, it's been very interesting. I think we're getting very close to the end. I know you're pushed for time as well. A couple of closing questions. If you had to give one piece of advice to someone entering the industry, what would it be?
Do it. Get in.
just do it.
Just do it. Yeah, get
company's
in.
good at that?
Work hard. If you've got the right attributes, if you have a good work drive, and you get a wee bit of luck, you'll be hugely successful in this industry.
Yeah, here.
And tell me, you've been very influential in the industry in Northern Ireland. You've delivered some of the key projects we have. When you finally retire, 30 or 40 years, what do you want to be remembered for? What's the legacy you want to leave behind?
I would love to inspire other people to join the industry. I would love to help shape the industry, whether it be improving quality, whether it be improving health and safety, improving the image of it. Just playing a small part in that industry, and being that old granda driving around pointing out buildings to my grandkids about that I had a small part to play on.
I'll be the other side of the street pointing as well.
We'll do it together, sure.
We will indeed. We will indeed.
So
Do a bit more cycling.
More cycling is the time then for the expensive bikes.
Yeah.
Duane, that has been fantastic. Thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you. It's been really
Great response. It's been a great conversation. Like we've really peeled the layers off and got to know the person behind the project. So thank you very much. It's great. Gerard.
Thanks,
Enjoyed
Gerard.
that, Duane.
Pleasure.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jonathan.
Thank you very much.
Take care.
All right, so that's a wrap for today's episode of Specify Talks. Big thanks again to Duane for sharing his knowledge, his experience, and a few laughs about life in the construction industry. Also want to thank Tunes for letting us use their offices. Very much appreciated. So if you enjoyed this conversation, please subscribe, leave us a review, share with anyone who loves construction, reach out to us on all our social media channels. We have got the Specify Hub, obviously YouTube, Spotify, Instagram, all the usual ones. You'll find us there. So again, I'm Jonathan Payne. Again, thanks to our co-host, Gerard. Thank you, Gerard.
Thanks, been a pleasure, Jonathan.
And we'll catch up next time for more stories from the world of construction. And can we also reach out to any of you out there who enjoyed this today, found it engaging? And if you've got a story you'd like to tell, it doesn't matter who you are or what you do within the industry, be you a site manager, a general labourer, an architect, an engineer, we want to hear from everyone. This is hopefully a media outlet for all the industry to talk and tell us what they're doing. So please, if you're interested in being on the podcast, reach out, send us a message. Thank you.